Good morning and welcome back to Planet Doug for another classic walk and talk video. I have an errand to run this morning, a very important one. In fact, this is sort of the third video in my renewing my Canadian passport trilogy. I shot one video talking about all of my misunderstandings and confusion when it came to filling out the application form for renewing a Canadian visa, exactly what the system was, everything you needed to do. I shot a whole video about that. And then I shot a walk and talk video telling the story of my appointment at the Canadian High Commission, where I had to submit my application and all of my documents and my passport photos. And I got to sit in a room with an official at the High Commission and sitting there in the room with a human being, everything suddenly made sense because I had the application form and all the documents, and she could just tell me everything. All of my questions were answered, and it was so much easier to do everything sitting there with a professional who could tell me and clear things up. And then my application was submitted, and today I'm going to pick it up. My new passport has arrived. I got a notification by email saying, to my surprise, your passport is ready for pickup. And then you have to make an appointment to go pick it up. You can't just knock on the door. You actually have to go online, go to the website. In the email that they send you, they have a link, and then you go through the steps and you choose a date and a time and you make an appointment. For passport pickup, the official appointment slots are all 5 minutes each, so it's not exactly a big deal, and I chose 10:15 this morning. And the last time I did this, when I had my appointment to submit my application, I was in a brain fog or something, and I left way too late, and I was really rushing to get to the High Commission, and there was a real risk of getting there too late and missing my appointment. Luckily, I got there on time. So I vowed not to do that this time, and I fought off the brain fog, and I left in plenty of time. It's 8:30 right now, and my appointment is at 10:15, so I can go through the Monorail transfer at Titiwangsa to I think the Putrajaya line, and that takes me to Ampang Park. And at Ampang Park, I can walk like 15 minutes. The announcements again, oh boy. It's too early in the morning for Monorail, LRT, MRT announcements. They're too loud. But anyway, then I have to walk 15 minutes from Ampang Park to the Canadian High Commission building. One funny thing, there are little tricks. You have to be aware of these things. They're real gotchas. Like, I think a lot of people, when they're traveling, they have their passport, and their passport is their ID, and sometimes that's the only ID they have. But then when you renew your passport, you have to give them your old one, so you don't have a passport anymore. But in order to get into the High Commission building, you have to give them some ID. So I think a lot of people show up there thinking, oh, I'm here to pick up my passport. And they say, oh, can we see some ID? And you're like, well, you guys have my ID. Oh, be quiet. He's so loud. But I actually have like a driver's license from Canada, expired years and years ago, but it has my photo on it. Because when they say ID, what they want is photo ID. And I can give them this photo ID, and if they don't look at the date, maybe they'll accept it. But anyway, I got to get out of here. That's no wonder. I'm right underneath the speaker. So that's my fault. I'm standing too close to the speaker. Oh, but there's another one right there, so you can't get away. I'm up on the platform now. And now I'm looking for all the speakers. I never looked at them before, not these ones on the monorail. They look more old-fashioned because the monorail is an older system. But yeah, those are the speakers that are haunting my life lately. And I guess there's one, two, I see at least 3 of them up here. And there's probably more of them tucked away. I didn't realize they were so big. Now I know why the announcements are so loud. And it's because it's early in the morning. I was just inside my perfectly quiet hotel room, and the second you step outside, I think it takes a while for your brain and your mood to kind of get adjusted to the noise of being in a big city. So I just wasn't ready for the announcements. It's too early in the morning. All right, yeah, just waiting for the monorail, and I can relax because I have plenty of time. So yeah, I guess I don't have a whole lot of stories to tell. Like my previous 2 videos about renewing my passport, I had a lot to talk about. When it came to figuring out how to apply to renew my passport, filling out the form, I had a lot of things I needed to discuss about that. And then going to the High Commission building, there were a lot of things to talk about in terms of making the appointment and how you have to register in the lobby first. And like I said, you have to have an appointment to get in. They check a list and they give you a card that gets you through a turnstile and turns on the elevator. And another trick of the trade there is they take away your smartphone when you have an appointment. So I'm aware of that this time. And they put it in a locked cabinet and give you the key. But you also have to put your phone in airplane mode or turn it off, which takes a lot of people by surprise, because you go into one of these appointments thinking you have all your information on your phone. So you know you have everything you need, but they take away your phone. So you have to be aware of that. So I had a lot to talk about, but for this morning, I think I show up at 10:15, and I think I don't even have to speak to an official. I just go up to the reception window, also behind bulletproof glass, of course, and then they just give me my passport. There's nothing else to do. I probably have to sign for it. So it should be relatively straightforward. My train is here, so now we're heading to Titiwangsa. And I always like to look at the map. We're here, and we're going here, and then we're transferring to this yellow line, the Putrajaya line.
Stand clear. Doors closing.
Of course, going to an embassy, High Commission, there's also a little bit of a dress code. This is as dressy as I get. I put on my orange shirt. I actually have 2 shirts with a collar and buttons, but my other shirt is with my bicycle down in Port Dickson. This is the only shirt with buttons that I have with me. And in terms of footwear, I did the best I could. They're not going to want you to show up in flip-flops like beach wear, right? But the best I can do are these. So these are the closest things I have to shoes. I have sandals, and then I have these. So I put those on. And of course I'm wearing long pants, though I must admit these long pants have seen better days. They need to be washed, but even when I wash them, they never really come clean anymore. So, but yeah, apologies to the High Commission. This is the best I can look. So hopefully they let me in, even though I look so bedraggled. Beautiful day. Look at that. Blue skies. You know you're in Kuala Lumpur when you see this. Massive skyscrapers being constructed everywhere you look. I remember looking it up that in the rankings around the world of the cities with the most skyscrapers, Kuala Lumpur is very high on the list. And if they keep building at this rate, who knows, maybe they'll end up at the top of the list one day.
Stesen berikutnya, TV Wangsa. Stesen pertukaran ke LRT Laluan Ampang, LRT Laluan Sri Petani, dan MRT Laluan Putrajaya. Next station, TV Wangsa. Interchange station to LRT Ampang Line, LRT Sri Petani Line, and MRT Putrajaya Line.
And these are the exchange possibilities here. You can change to the MRT PY Putrajaya, or you can change to the LRT. I think this is Sri Petaling and this is Ampang, or the other way around, I'm not sure. And then the happy green monorail. And this is what's going on. I have to be on platform 1 because we're here at Titiwangsa and we're only going to Ampang Park. 3 stops. Look at the time. It's always that way, isn't it? It's 9 o'clock and I'm at Ampang Park. And as far as I know, it's like a 15-minute walk to get to the High Commission building. So I'll be there essentially an hour early. So if you leave things too late, you arrive with seconds to spare. And then if you change and then you think, okay, I'm going to leave earlier so I get there earlier, suddenly you're there an hour early, which in my case I don't mind because I don't have any trouble filling an hour of time anywhere I go, and I like to be able to relax. I'll trade an hour of time for just being able to not be stressed out, so that works out pretty well. But I do have to navigate there. I've never done this particular walk before, like from this station to the High Commission building, I don't think, but should be relatively straightforward. Let's go check out my neighborhood. See if I can make sense of it. I guess these are good maps. They're very detailed, a lot of information. But I do find the orientation just doesn't jump out at me for some reason. I'm always a little bit puzzled by them. It takes me a while to figure out what's going on. But eventually, you know, you just have to find a familiar landmark, and there's the Chorus Hotel, Kuala Lumpur, and this is Jalan Ampang, and this is Jalan Tun Razak. So pretty much I have exit B, and then over here to Ampang, and then down, and it all makes sense after a little while. And this way, exit A, exit B. Okay, that makes sense. You can exit onto the main road, Tun Razak, or onto Ampang. And then, of course, everything makes perfect sense, at least to me, once I step outside. Even if the map doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Of course, you step outside and, oh yeah, that's where I am. I know this area well. Hop over here, get a nice look at the skyscrapers I was talking about. I'll have to look it up. As I said, I look this up all the time, and the ranking of Kuala Lumpur amongst cities in the world for having the most skyscrapers, it's way up on the list, surprisingly so. I think it surprises a lot of people to find out just how many skyscrapers are here. More all the time, yeah, looking in that direction, more over here. And my particular skyscraper is something like the Tan and Tan building or something like that, and it's off in this direction. That's where I have to walk. Torture. There's like a million boutique-y kind of coffee places right here. There's the Ampang LRT station and the Ampang MRT station. They're right beside each other, but there's no transfer point through the tunnels, so you actually have to exit from one and then walk to the next one and go back in again. And because of that, you get people walking back and forth, so they put up all these coffee places, and I'm very tempted, of course, to get a cup of coffee. But that, my friends, is a rookie mistake, where you arrive somewhere early. So because you're early, you think, I have plenty of time to stop and have a coffee. And then you have your coffee, and then suddenly you're rushing again and you're almost late. So you lost all the advantages of being early because you stopped for coffee. So no, get to your destination, and then if there's coffee there, then I'll do it. But I'm not gonna stay here. Yeah, look at this. I remember somebody coming here, might have been the American hobo. He goes out exploring on foot a lot, and I think when he was in KL at night, he was a real night owl compared to me. I think he came here at some point at the Urban Skate Plaza. Yeah, I saw a guy here on a skateboard, so I thought, yeah, this looks like I think this is the place the American hobo visited at night. Wouldn't be very busy during the day, of course. So I believe, yeah, this is Jalan Ampang, and I have to somehow cross over, and the High Commission is down in that direction. Yeah, I think I'll take the pedestrian bridge. Be the easiest, most fun. Look at the size of that thing. I've never taken this pedestrian overpass that I can remember. This is the first time. I'm always down at street level, and you can cross the intersection down here, right? You don't have to climb up here. I just thought I'd do it for fun. And then you don't have to wait for the lights to change. And you get not exactly elevated views, but yeah, you get to see the city from a little bit higher up. There's the skateboard park. I was just thinking about the things that I learned in this process, because when I started, I've done it before. I've renewed passports in the past, gotten new passports overseas. I mean, I haven't gotten a passport in Canada. Of course, I got my very first one, but then I don't think I've ever had it renewed in Canada. All of my passport renewals have been overseas. So this is not a totally new experience, but 5 years, 10 years go by, everything changes. So it's all new every single time you do it. And one thing I learned during this process is that in fellow Commonwealth countries, Canada doesn't have an embassy. They have what they call the Canadian High Commission. So if you're in Malaysia, also a member of the Commonwealth, and you look for the Canadian Embassy, you're not going to find it because they don't have one here. It is technically, and in every way, it's an embassy, but it has a different name. They call them High Commissions. And it's a bit of a symbolic thing, the name change, in terms of our relationship with Commonwealth countries. It serves all the same functions as an embassy, but you're not going to find one here. Look for the High Commission. And of course there are consulates, and a consulate is smaller, usually located in regional cities, and you could possibly go to a consulate to renew your passport. I think it depends on the consulate, depends on the country. And this is a great building. It's one of my favorites, just in terms of the visuals. Very cool looking structure. The Tun Razak Tower. Menara means tower, but that sweeping base looks very, very cool. And yeah, we're heading towards the High Commission building right up ahead. I forget the name of it now. The Tan and Tan building or something like that. I think it's this one. Actually, we're looking at it, this brown and white square structure. That's where the Canadian High Commission is located. 17th floor. Something else I learned is that in the modern era, you can't just show up anymore. That's what I always did in the past. That's what I planned to do this time when I came to Kuala Lumpur. I didn't really plan ahead that much because I didn't know what to do. I knew there'd be little details I couldn't figure out. And it's always easier to go directly to the source and just ask them instead of fighting on your own for hours and hours and hours trying to figure things out. My plan was to just come to the High Commission, walk through the door, sit down with someone and say, oh, okay, here's my situation. My passport is full. It's still valid for 5 years, but it's completely full. What do I do? What form do I fill out? Oh, this form? What about this part? That doesn't apply to me. You know, you can just, a human being can walk you through it in seconds, whereas figuring it out on your own is almost impossible, at least for a dummy like me. But it turns out you can't do that anymore. At least I thought you couldn't, because the only way to get into this place is by appointment. And right away I thought, oh, I'm done. I have to make an appointment. And my understanding was that to make an appointment, you fill out the form, submit it, pay for the passport, and then you're allowed to make an appointment. So essentially I was completely on my own. But I did learn that it's a little bit more casual than that. I guess I'm not that kind of person, but I could have made an appointment and I could have told them, okay, I'm making an appointment to renew a passport, but then I just show up with nothing. Like I haven't filled out the form yet, I don't have passport photos yet, and I can use my appointment to ask them questions. Technically, they don't want you to do that. They want you to come in ready to go. Appointment, here's my form, boom, you're out the door. They don't want you booking appointments, clogging up their system just to come in and ask them questions. But you could do that. And I have a related story that will illustrate that. But anyway, you have to make an appointment, and you cannot make an appointment for the next day. That always seems to be blanked out. And when I went to make my appointment, there was only one appointment available for 2 weeks. It was booked up for 2 weeks, but there was one appointment, and that was the only one I could get, which kind of added to the stress level that I was experiencing, because I felt like there was a ticking clock going on. So that's the other lesson I learned. Make an appointment, you have to. It's the only way to get into the building. And I'm here, let me check the time. It's 9:30. My appointment is at 10:15. I could go in early, but again, I'm not really the kind of guy to do that. I feel like I'm imposing. Like if I make an appointment for 10:15, I'm approaching the front door at 10 o'clock. That seems polite. But again, I have a story related to that I'll talk about in a minute. So I'm just going to go up here on this pedestrian overpass, sit down on some steps, and keep telling my story for a few minutes. Pretty noisy up here, but that's just the way things are. So here we are. This is Jalan Ampang. And they have a really nice restaurant here, right there. Antipodean, I don't know how to say it. I had breakfast there one time, really nice. I could go in there for a coffee if I wanted to. Is it worth it for 30 minutes? Yeah, why don't I do that just for fun? Just to be nice to myself. The noise level up here is overwhelming. The roar of the traffic. Look at me living the good life, pretending I'm like a normal person who lives this way. Yeah, I did come in. How do you say the name? Antipodean? Antipodean? Antipodean. So yeah, that's the name of this place, Antipodean. I had breakfast here once before. Very nice place. And they have things like, you know, the big breakfast, the big Western breakfast. And they have that massive menu on the wall there. That is the menu that you order from. And here's the interior. Very, very nice. Air conditioned. So I just ordered a coffee and I'll sit here for 30 minutes until my appointment time. As I said, look at me being all normal and reasonable for a change. The old Doug would be out there on the pedestrian crosswalk screaming above the roar of the traffic. I barely had the time to set up my GoPro, and my hot latte is here. I've already forgotten Antipodean. Yeah, you sort of need the dish. There's no little handle on the cup. That's nice. As always, my preference is for a more standard kind of giant mug of hot coffee, sort of the cafe fancy cappuccino, cafe latte. It's not quite for me, but hey. That's really strong, really nice. So, and they give you a little cookie. And I've got a bottle of water here, so I can have some water at the same time. So, what else did I learn through this process? One thing I learned, I was such a dummy, is that the form that you finally get to, you have to figure out which form to fill out as well, by the way, because there's a simplified application process and a regular application process, and yet somehow they mix those two forms together, and then you have to sort of sort through them. It's a little bit confusing for me. But you have to find the form, and then when you open the form, it opens on your computer. So it's an interactive digital form, and you can just type away and fill it all out. And that, being a dummy, that made me believe this was an online submission, that I had to fill out the form, and then when I got to the end of it, there would be a submit button, and you click on submit, and it gets submitted electronically. Makes sense, right? No, turns out that's not what it is. It is just a paper form. And what you could do is open it on your laptop or whatever, put it on a flash drive, and print it out at a print shop. So you print out the paper form, and then you could fill it in by hand. The fact that you can type on it, because it's a PDF, that's just a convenience. Dummy that I am, I thought I was filling out an online form, and I thought the form had to be 100% perfect and completed. And then you hit the submit button, and then whatever you filled in on that form is locked in. You can't change it anymore. That is your submission. And without the guidance of a high commission personnel, I'm pretty sure I was going to make a mistake on the form, so I was freaking out about this. Turns out that's not how it works. You don't submit it online. You can fill it out on your computer, but then you have to save it and then print it out. So you got to go find a printer somewhere. So at the Canadian High Commission, they want you to bring in a paper copy of the application form. So you have a chance to sit down with a professional, and then they will go over the form, and then they will ask you questions. Oh, what about this? And then you basically complete it together, and that takes away so much of the stress. So that's the other thing I learned. You print out the paper form and you bring it with you to the High Commission. You do not submit it online, as I thought. Nobody told me. The other thing I learned is that you always need 2 references, always. This was confusing for me because I did a lot of research, and some sources said that if your passport is just full, you don't need references, that it is a super simplified process and you don't need references. People insisted on that 100%. So that was the first information I came across. So I came to Kuala Lumpur thinking, oh, I don't need references. This is going to be easy. But then as soon as I started filling out the form, it was asking for references, and I started doing more research, and now I was being told, yes, you need references. But of course, the Canadian government website never specified between a passport that is expired or stolen or full, like when you need references and when you don't. I looked everywhere for this information. I mean, I burrowed deep into the internet. I called on every AI system I could find to help me in this search. And then the AIs couldn't even agree. So it was a giant mess. But when I went to the High Commission, finally, I asked the woman who helped me, like, did I need references? And she says, yes, everybody needs references. Doesn't matter. Every single passport related thing, you always have to have 2 references no matter what. So that cleared that up. And I found out throughout all this process, your references don't have to be Canadian. And this was something else that tripped me up, because I have a great deal of difficulty coming up with 2 Canadians who have known me for 2 years, who can vouch for me, who have a phone, and who I'm in contact with. I've lost touch. So I was really struggling. Late at night, I stayed up till like 3 in the morning trying to contact people in Canada, trying to find somebody who could serve as my reference. And then I find out they don't have to be Canadian, but it doesn't specify that anywhere on the website. So it turns out, yeah, a Malaysian who has known me for 2 years can be my reference, a Filipino, an American, Australian, anybody in the world, essentially. And once I knew that, it was like, oh, for Pete's sake, even I, dummy that I am and vagabond that I am, even I can come up with 2 people worldwide who have known me for 2 years. So that's the other trick. Your references do not have to be Canadian. They can be from any country in the world. So go figure. Though the trick there is, in some situations, you need a guarantor. And your guarantor, different from references, your guarantor must be Canadian, like a Canadian professional, engineer, doctor, police chief, I think, someone like a dentist. But your guarantor has to be a Canadian citizen, but references do not. I could not believe it when I finally figured that out. I figured it out too late, though. A couple other things I learned, just small details. I've already mentioned, I think, that you're not allowed to go into the High Commission with a smartphone. You have to leave them at the security gate. And not only that, you have to put it in airplane mode or turn it off, and then they put it in a locked cabinet. So if you're counting on having this with you during your application process, think again. You will not have your smartphone crutch. You have to have all the information in your head. And a Canadian passport renewal normally costs $160 Canadian, but overseas there's an extra $100 for delivery services, so it's $260. And you have to be very careful on the form. There's a little box you have to check if you want your old passport returned to you, which you must do, because when you're in another country, your old passport has your visa stamp. And if you don't get your old passport back, suddenly you've got no proof how and where and when you entered the country, no physical proof. So look for that box. Please return my old passport. They cancel it, they punch holes in it, and then make it invalid, but you get it back. So you get your old one and your new one. And then in this country, you're gonna have to go to local immigration and get them to transfer your entry stamp from your old passport to your new one. I think last time I did it at the airport, but I think you can do it at an office as well, like that. And you have to realize that while they are processing your application, you don't have a passport. So if you need to do any banking, anything official, you need to cross a border, get all that done before you hand in your application. Because if they take away your passport, you're stuck. You have nothing to show at hotels, at banks, at border crossings. You really can't do much of anything until you get your new passport. Though it is possible to pay a fee, like you can make an argument that you ask them, can I keep my passport? rather than handing it in. But that's a $45 fee, and I think you have to come up with a pretty good reason with supporting documents, like you have to travel or something because of a death in the family, or you have unbreakable travel arrangements, and I think you have to show them those travel arrangements. Otherwise, they're just not going to do it, because they really want to have your old passport to verify your identity. So it costs $45 to keep it, and you have to give them a very good reason as well. And little things about the application form that I eventually learned was that you put in your permanent address in Canada or wherever that is in the world, but then they have a section for other addresses if you're not at your permanent address. And that kind of tripped me up. But when I spoke to the woman in person, she basically says, oh, so you've been traveling for 2 years, so all the other addresses, leave it blank. You don't have to fill that section out. And I didn't know that until I got there. And in terms of your occupation, they do accept unemployed. Like if you have no job, as in my case, you could write down other and write in unemployed. I didn't know I could do that. I thought I had to put down a job. It looked to me like I had no choice. I had to select an occupation. So I thought the only thing I work at these days is making YouTube videos. So I called myself a content creator. And I handed my package in like that. And then she looked at that and said, well, I think we need a bit more than that. Can you put down the dates that you've been a content creator? When did you start creating content? And of course I'm like, I don't know. There's there's no definite date for that, but I had to make up a date, and I just made up a date. I've been a content creator from this day, this year, up until today. And then, of course, you're supposed to write down the name and address and phone number of your employer. And I struggled with that too. But then the woman at the High Commission waved her magic wand and says, nah, just forget about that. Leave it blank. As a content creator, you are self-employed, so you don't have to fill that out. So dealing with a human being made everything so much easier. I probably have more tips, more things I learned, but I've got to go. I don't want to be late for my very important appointment.
It's done. It's done. Oh man, what an adventure. How is it that all these things that other people just sail through? I was watching a video from some other Canadians who recently had their passports renewed here in Kuala Lumpur. I think their channel is called What's Traveling or something like that. And in their video description, they basically said, oh, if you ever need to renew your passport overseas, don't worry, it's super easy. And then in their video, they just make it sound like it was a day at the park. They did actually run into a lot of problems, but they just never mentioned them. They just concluded like, wow, it was super easy. But anyway, for people like that and other people, all these things are just like effortless. But everything with me, there's always a little twist, always a little challenge. But let's start with the positive. I do have my passport. It's right here behind this manila envelope. I don't even dare show you the cover of the passport because of YouTube and their incredible sensitivity to censorship. Not long ago, I showed a kind of a document in a video that was perfectly harmless. It was a document that belonged to me, and then YouTube deleted the whole video, just like out of nowhere. I got an email that said, you've been accused of harassing this person online and exposing their data. And it was me, and they just deleted the video completely. So I don't dare do anything in a video anymore. Not a piece of music will ever appear ever again. No, I'm not even going to show you the cover of my passport because that will trigger something at YouTube. I'm sure it will. There's such a heightened concern for security and copyright and censorship. You don't dare do anything anymore. But anyway, the passport is there. Some interesting changes.
It seems to be bigger than the old one. So they made some improvements. Now I think there are 33 pages available for visas, which is a lot more than my old passport. I probably don't even need 33 pages now. Could have used it before. And the page is much better designed. I was commenting before that my old Canadian passport was very poorly designed because so much of the page was taken up with graphics and border lines, so that it forced the immigration people to put their stamps in the middle of the page, because as you tried to go to the edge or the corner of the page, you ended up encountering these like huge page numbers, graphics, lines and things, and it really reduced the area of the page available for visa stamps. The new passport is much better. It's much more open. Goes all the way to the edges on the left and the right. The page number is down at the bottom, very close to the bottom. So there's a lot more space on the page. So I think that will encourage people just to use the whole page. So that was good. And they changed the passport number. My old passports all had 8, like 2 letters, 6 numbers. Now it's 1 letter, 7 numbers, and 2 letters. So it's a much more complex number that I have to remember. I'm not pleased about that. And when I first looked at the number, I mean, I don't believe in lucky numbers or anything like that, but I do like some numbers I like, some I don't. This passport number I looked at, it went, I don't like that number at all. So anyway, what are you gonna do? And it's got such a weird, complicated pattern now. I assume the 2 letters at the end are a kind of identifying code for this type of passport. I don't think it's a personal identifier for me, but I don't know. But anyway, I'm very used to the 8, like 2 letters, 6 number pattern. I've had that my whole life, but now I assume for security reasons, it's now 9 characters, 1 letter, 7 numbers, and then 2 letters at the end. So much more complex. But I do have it. So that's the good news. I wouldn't say that there's bad news, but there's Planet Doug news, the things that only happen on my planet, on Planet Doug, because I made an appointment for 10:15, and I took that appointment slot very, 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 very seriously, and yet when I showed up there, they had no record of it, like nothing. Yeah, I selected that time, I submitted it, thank you very much, here's your appointment date, here's your appointment time. I showed up there, they're not on the list. So I'm down in the lobby, and it was like right out of the gate. It's like, well, that's the end of the road for me, because I won't be able to get an appointment tomorrow, because they don't let you, like the day before. Either they're all taken already, or they just gray them out. They don't like you to book like right the day before, I don't think. And then I'm supposed to be starting this car tour of Malaysia tomorrow. So now I'm gonna have to come back. Anyway, the whole thing was problematic right out of the gate. But I worked with the people down there, and apparently they could work some magic, because I was only picking up a passport, which only takes a minute. They said, well, why don't we can make an appointment for you right now, and they need to see ID. Right, I talked about that already. They take away your ID, your passport, but now when you go to get your passport, you need to show them ID. And then in my case, I just happen to have an old photo ID, my expired driver's license. So I gave them that tiny little card, really, really hard to read the lettering on it, and they're staring at it. Okay, what is your name exactly, you know? And they're trying to get on the computer and match me up with my record. And then I remembered, well, I also brought along a photocopy of my passport, my old passport. So I just handed it over. So, oh, maybe this will help you. And she's like, oh, that's much better, much better, much better. Like, and she just kind of gave me the driver's license back and says, yeah, we can't use that. So all you really needed for ID was a photocopy of your old passport. That's what they wanted as ID. And of course, nobody said that. That's not in the instructions anywhere. But now that I gave them just a photocopy of my old passport, my canceled one, they're like, oh yeah, that'll work. That's great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then they could make an appointment for me. So they make an appointment for me down below, send it all up to the 17th floor. I go up to the 17th floor. Nobody there has ever heard of me. And they're saying, okay, well, you're not on the list. We don't see your name on the list. And I say, I know, yeah, there's been some sort of a mistake. My appointment slot didn't get registered. I don't know what happened. And then I told them, yeah, down below, they made me a new appointment and sent me up. And they says, yeah, but you're not on the list. And I says, yeah, I know, but they made a new one for me. They said it was okay, and now I have. And they said, well, what time is your new appointment? It's like, I don't know. They did something on their computer, and they told me to go on up. And they're looking at me, shaking their heads, like, you're not on the list, dude. Like, what can we do? And I'm like, But then eventually I just chatted with them for a little bit, and then they went into the offices, and they spoke to somebody in there, somebody with power, someone official, and then they came out and said, okay, we saw your passport, it's just waiting for you at the front desk. We can work through this. And then I had to do the whole, give them my phone, and I pointed out that I had a GoPro camera that had to come out and be stored separately. And yeah, then there were more wrinkles. How could there not be? Again, I'm really focused on details. I pay attention to details. So I go in after going through all the security, stuff like that. And again, it's always kind of funny because I hand over my phone, they lock it away in a cupboard, and then they give me a form to fill out at the security desk. They say, okay, fill this out. And you have to write down your name and your passport number, the date and the time. And I'm looking at the guy, he's like, I have no idea what day it is. I don't know what time it is. I don't have a watch on at the moment. It's like, you get all this information from your phone, but they take your phone away from you, and now I'm staring at this form. It's like, okay, I think it's September. I'm pretty sure it's 2025, but as to the date today, no clue. And I have to ask the guy, like, what's the date, right? And then I fill that out, and like, what's the time? I have no idea. He tells me the time. So I go in, then I go to the reception desk, and she's got a package there for me. Has my old passport. Now they cut the corner off and they stamp it canceled. So I get that back, and I get a sealed brown envelope that contains my new passport, she says. And then she gives me a form and says, okay, could you please fill out this form, like that, to indicate you received your passport. And I'm okay, thank you very much. There's an area there where you can sit down, fill out the form. I sit down, I've got a pen, I'm ready to fill it out. I have not got the slightest clue how to fill out this form. Not a clue. I mean, none of it makes any sense to me. There's a section in the bottom left, okay, name, passport number, but what number do I put in there? My old one or my new one? I don't know. And you got to put in your date. Already, I can't remember what the date is. I have no idea. I just filled it out at the security, but I can't remember the date. I knew the month and the year, but I couldn't remember the actual date, right? So I'm staring at that, I'm befuddled. But then there's this other part of the form that is very, very technical. Something about retained passport, automated guarantor, this, that, and the other. There's all this information they're asking for, and all this vocabulary that I don't recognize. I have no idea what any of this stuff means, and I'm just looking at it going, sorry, no clue. None of this makes any sense to me. And then eventually I fill out the parts that I can fill out, I'm guessing, and hello. And then I go up to the woman, and I slide the form underneath it, and I say, yeah, there's a lot of stuff here that I don't know what any of that means. And, oh, no, you don't have to fill out any of that. You only had to fill out that little piece on the bottom left corner, your name and your new passport number, she says. You know, not your old one, your new one. And now she's explaining all that other stuff, everything else on the form, none of that applies to you. You don't have to fill out any of that. So, of course, my common sense brain is screaming, well, why is it on the form then? And why didn't you tell me this beforehand? And again, this is a little thing, but I mean, it's a big thing to me because they give you a form and say, fill it out. But they don't tell you that, well, 90% of the form doesn't apply to you and you can just leave all of that blank. It would have been nice to know that before they handed it to me. So that was finished. And then as I was leaving, I left the building, and then I'm looking again at my passport. I'm double checking it, taking it out of the brown envelope. And then as I'm taking it out of the brown envelope, I find another form, a piece of paper that's inside the brown envelope. So, and again, I don't dare show it clearly on camera because YouTube is going to accuse me of swatting somebody. So I'm going to hold it outside of camera view. And it's like an information page about, this is your new passport. You must do these 4 things. And it says, you know, number 1, check to make sure the information is correct. 2, sign your name on page 3. Don't sign anyone else's passport. Fill in your emergency contact. Protect your passport. And it has all this information about emergency assistance while abroad, numbers to call, QR codes, all this stuff you're supposed to review when you get your passport. But I didn't know it was there. I never saw it. Like, they never told me, oh, when you open your passport package, you know, there's a form in there, there's an information sheet. Please read through that and follow the instructions. I never saw it because it's jammed inside the envelope. Like when you pull out your passport, this form doesn't come out with it. It's stuck inside the envelope, like way down at the bottom. You kind of have to, you know, blow open the envelope, like, and then look down at the bottom. Oh, there's something else in there. And then you pull this thing out and say, oh, I was supposed to do all of this. And again, it's just a little thing. Systems matter to me, details matter to me. And yeah, so that's kind of how things worked out for me. And luckily though, I do have the passport. Even though I had no appointment, they gave me one. Even though nobody could even see my new appointment, they still let me in. And as far as I can tell, all the information in my passport is correct. Name was spelled right. Dates, now it goes until the year 2035. And I've got 33 pages of visa goodness to work with. Like visa pages, like I got room for 33 pages of visa stamps. Assuming I don't lose the passport or have it stolen, will be my companion for a very long time. Oh, I'm exhausted. Like I said, this other couple, these other Canadians, Watts Traveling, I think they would have emerged from what I just went through. And in a way they did, now that I think about it, because when they showed up, the man, there's a couple, a married couple, they're retirees from Canada, a man and a woman, probably younger than I am actually looking at them, but they had appointments. And when they showed up, the man's appointment wasn't listed either. They said that in the video that, yeah, there was no appointment for him. But the people there said, oh, okay, you can piggyback on your wife's appointment. So we'll deal with the two of you at the same time. So they made an exception for him. But anyway, so his appointment disappeared too, just like mine disappeared. So I'm pretty sure that this couple, being very optimistic and being very happy and very, I guess, normal compared to me, they would have gone through everything that I just went through, and they would have said, wow, that was so easy. It's no problem renewing your passport. But I beg to differ. Even picking up my new passport led me down a lot of difficult pathways, from having no appointment when I scheduled one, but it just disappeared, to like all the other complications, like little things that didn't make any sense at all. And but yeah, that's the Planet Doug approach. I pay attention to the tiny details of life. I'm detail oriented. And I was thinking about this the other night. I was writing about this topic to some friends on a Telegram group, and then the whole idea is perhaps that this Canadian couple, you could say they're optimistic. They're happy, they're bubbly, they're optimistic. And you could say, by comparison, I'm perhaps pessimistic. They see the glass as half full. I see the glass as half empty. You could make that argument. But I don't really buy into that argument because in my case, that analogy doesn't work. For me, I would say my glass is in the middle of a raging waterfall, tumbling down from 300 feet, going over and over and smashing on the rocks. Sometimes it's full, sometimes it's completely empty, sometimes it's half full, half empty, and at the end it's broken into a million pieces. That's the Planet Doug reality. I don't have a half-empty glass. I have a glass that's falling over Niagara Falls, tumbling end over end. That's my glass. Anyway, it's done. It is done, and I have a passport. And I'll end on one even more extreme Planet Doug note that maybe most people won't even be able to understand what I'm talking about. And this has been bothering me from the very beginning of this process, because when you go to the Canadian government website, right at the very beginning of doing your research, you have to decide what you're doing. And they decide between two options. You are either renewing your passport or you're getting a new passport. Those are two very different paths. But the language gets mixed up, right? Because my idea is, okay, you're renewing your passport. That means you don't get a new one. You keep the same passport number, the same ID, the same everything. But that's not how it works. Even though I'm renewing my passport, I got a new one. So when you're just having casual conversation, you keep running into trouble because people are saying, well, if you're renewing your passport, you do this. But if you're getting a new passport, you do this. But then you suddenly say, well, yeah, I'm picking up my new passport tomorrow, right? But I didn't get a new passport, technically. I renewed my passport. So what language do you use, right? It actually gets really kind of confusing. And what I discovered after thinking about it, that they're talking about two different things. The actual paper document, technically, that isn't your passport. That's just a document that represents your passport, because when you get a new passport, what you're doing is getting a new identity. So the only time you get a new passport is if you legally change your name, right? Like you're adopting a brand new identity with a new name change, something legal, something like that. Then you get a brand new passport associated with that identity. That is a new passport. In all other cases, like I didn't get a new passport today. My passport is the same, but I just got a new paper document that is proof of my identity, my passport identity with the Canadian government. You see what I mean? There's a very subtle distinction there, but it's quite real. So when I was talking to people, I was being very careful to say things like, yeah, I'm renewing my passport, and tomorrow I'm going to pick up the passport. I tried never to say new passport, because technically that's not correct. I didn't get a new passport. I just renewed my old one. And yet everybody in casual conversation, they will say, you're applying for a new passport, and I got a new passport, a new booklet, but according to the official instructions, I didn't get a new passport. I just renewed my old one. I don't know if anybody could follow me there, but trust me, the logic is sound. So it is done. It is over. I was just about to say I have a new passport, but I don't. I just have a passport, and it is valid for another 10 years. So I'm back up on the pedestrian bridge, by the way. There's the skateboard park down there where we just were. Yeah. All the skyscrapers. I was going to get another cup of coffee to tell this story, but yeah, they're expensive. Like when you go into a real restaurant and get a real cup of coffee, like at a cafe like that, I mean, the coffee is more than I pay for a meal, right? So yeah, you can't just, going into one of those places is a special occasion to have a coffee like that. So yeah, I thought I would tell the story as I make my way back to the MRT station. There are all these coffee places over here. Like I said, this is the LRT station right here, and then the MRT station is over there. That's the other building. You can see the yellow and white sign. So anyone transferring, they actually have to exit, physically come up the stairs and walk from this exit to that entrance in order to make the interchange. That's why there's all these coffee places, and they might be cheaper than at the Antipodean, but maybe I'll get some ice cream. Mishway right there, they have some good prices. It's a much better value. 5 ringgit, you get a big cup of soft ice cream, like an ice cream sundae. And at Antipodean, my cafe latte was 18.5 ringgit. So that's a lot of money for a cup of coffee, and I only had like 20 minutes to enjoy it before I had to leave. So I think I'm going to reward myself with a 5 ringgit ice cream sundae instead. I forgot that I live on Planet Doug, and everywhere I want to go is always closed. So Mishway is not open. But maybe I'll try to get a cheaper coffee here at Dunkin' Donuts. I haven't been to a Dunkin' in years, perhaps. Have I ever been to a Dunkin'? I don't really know. And I'll go see what I can get in there for a cup of coffee. Oh, much more to my liking. Big hot cup of latte. Oh, I was wondering what the heck this was. There's like a weird plasticky thing, and I guess you disconnect that and it, oh, actually it goes in like a little lid. But I never drink through these. It burns my lips every time I try. They keep designing and redesigning these, and I've never come up with one that actually works for the way I sip my coffee. So I like to sip my coffee from an open cup. Yeah, it's interesting. The Antipodean, the fancy cafe, their latte tasted like real coffee, like a really strong coffee flavor, really, really nice. But it's small and kind of lukewarm. This is big and hot, but it kind of tastes like warm water with a little bit of milk. Yeah, I'm not getting any coffee from there at all. Maybe it's too close to the flavor of the other one. It's too strong in my memory. Maybe if I just had this by itself, I'd find it okay. But nah, this is one of the least flavorful lattes I've had in a very long time. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't come back here for that. Yeah, I took another look at the new Canadian passport as opposed to the old one. I wanted to see that I wasn't imagining things about how they redesigned the page, and they did make it better. So the new design, it's not as good as I would want. I would make more suggestions, but for example, on the left side of the left edge on the old passport, for whatever reason, they put a series of lines, like a zzz, all the way down, which takes up like, I don't know, not half an inch, but a good chunk of the page. That's all gone. So the stamp can go all the way to the edge of the page. And there used to be a big number in the top left-hand corner, indented, which takes up the whole top left-hand corner. But now they've got rid of the edge work, and then the page numbers on the bottom in tiny numbers. But then for some reason at the top of the page, they put in a graphic. There's like this 3-line fancy graphic, and it's like in the middle, lower from the top, and I assume it has some sort of a security feature built into it. Why else would they put it there? But it ends up using up a good chunk of the top of the page. I'm like, what's that thing doing there? And don't tell me it's there just for decoration, because then I'll be really annoyed. But still, the new passport page design, much better than the old one. Though there's still little things that annoy me, because as you go through the front of the passport, there's all these pages that are used up for other things. You can't put visa stamps on them. And one of them is just a big page, and in the middle is a little paragraph that says, if you are traveling overseas, please register with the Canadian Travel Consular Services for your security. It says that in English and in French, and that takes up the whole page. And like, well, why would you use up an entire page of my passport to put that? You could, because right on the other page is where you put in your emergency contact information, and it takes up half the page, and it's also in the middle. So put this on the top of the page, put the travel warning on the bottom of the page, and give me one more page for visas. Like, come on, think of your customers. Anyway, overall, it's an improvement, but they could still do so much better from a customer's point of view, from a design point of view. And one thing I noticed on the instructions form that I didn't know were there, they do give one little interesting tip that I don't think I've ever come across before. It said that when you fill in your emergency contact, fill it in with pencil, so that if your emergency contact information changes, you can erase it and put in new information. So that's useful to be told that. And yeah, I don't think I've ever come across that before, but it makes sense. Fill it out with pencil. It's funny, but being a YouTuber even means I end up denying myself some of the pleasures, because I could sit inside. It's air conditioned inside Dunkin' Donuts, but of course I can't really reasonably sit in there. It's a very, very quiet space right now. There's like 2 people in there. Other than that, it's dead silent. And then, of course, I don't want to sit there, turn on my GoPro and have my booming voice filling all of Dunkin' Donuts. So I end up going outside. This is where I've been sitting enjoying my coffee, but now I'm, I got sweat dripping down my face. But while I was sitting out here, I was thinking about one thing, that a lot of companies here are their own worst enemy, because I noticed there's garbage everywhere. There's garbage on the ground, garbage on all the tables. There's only like one little thing of milk here that doesn't belong to me, but I'm going to clear away my own coffee cup and whatever else is on my table. But the reason that happens is there's not even a Dunkin' Donuts garbage bin out here. So even for their own customers, they don't supply a garbage bin. So of course everybody just leaves it on the table, and then it blows off the table onto the ground, and there's just garbage everywhere. But yeah, very few of these places have a this one doesn't either. I see a public trash can ahead of me. And if there's one thing you want to know about Canadians, we are extremely anti-littering. Cannot stand garbage in public spaces. We're just born that way, I think. And so as Canadians, we're always walking around carrying our trash until we find a receptacle, like right here. But yeah, sure sign you're dealing with a Canadian if they're carrying garbage. It's just what we do. We'll put it in our knapsack, forget about it for days. We're carrying garbage around in our knapsacks until we finally remember, and then get rid of it. Well, I think that is the end of the trilogy, part 3 of the saga of Planet Doug getting a passport renewed. I think that's the end of the story. Nothing else to tell. So, yeah, where am I right now? I'm getting back into the MRT, of course, and my mystery companions for the mystery tour of Malaysia that's starting tomorrow, they're in Kuala Lumpur right now. They just flew in early this morning. I got a message from them around 3 o'clock in the morning that they're here. Hopefully we'll meet up today. And tomorrow, I think, we're hopping in a rental car, a car that they're renting, and then we're going somewhere in Malaysia. Where we're going, I don't know. I honestly have no idea. So it is really a mystery tour, very exciting. And the mystery tour begins tomorrow. And today I just have to do laundry and make sure I'm presentable to be a companion for my mystery companions on this road trip. Maybe get a haircut, something like that. Thanks for following along with me on all my passport renewal adventures. All's well that ends well, right? That is that's definitely my philosophy, but I'm still going to tell the story. I like a good story, and dealing with anything official like an embassy or high commission, very ripe for lots and lots of interesting stories. Yeah, quite a thing. Slowly making my way back to the Crossroads Hotel. I'm at the Titiwangsa Monorail station now. That's the platform behind me. I just noticed that not almost everyone, but a lot of people that come up here are very confused because they need to know what platform, like should I go to platform 1 or platform 2? But the truth is, of course, they're exactly the same because Titiwangsa is the last station. It's the terminal station, so it only goes back in that direction. There's only one option. So it doesn't really matter whether you go across the tracks to that platform or stay here. You're getting on the same train and it's going in the same direction. But for some reason, the signage doesn't really convey that. And I see people staring at platform 2, KL Central, and they're trying to figure out, well, should I go on this platform or should I go under the tunnel and come up on the other side? You know, what should I do? Yeah, I don't even know if you can go to the other side. It may even be blocked. The other thing I notice in these LRT, MRT monorail stations is people in Malaysia, for whatever reason, they live in the bathrooms. So if you go into the bathroom and you want to go into one of the bathroom stalls, you might as well give up. If the doors are closed and locked, whoever's in there, they're camped out in there and they're going to stay in there for the rest of the day. I don't know what they're doing in there, but once they're in there, they're never coming out. I don't know why it takes so long, but they could be in there reading a newspaper, playing video games, whatever they're doing in there. It takes a very long time. I've noticed that over the years, over the time that I've been here. Just about back at the crossroads, we're passing by the Biomedical Museum. Right there, that's the building. Museum, Biomedical. Very interesting place to visit. Very unusual museum, that's for sure. And this is my stop, Chow Kit Monorail Station. When my friend Jason from Australia was here, he decided to go check the place out. I think he remembered it from the video that I shot. He didn't remember exactly what I saw there and what I talked about, but it's right in our neighborhood, so because he was staying at the crossroads as well, might as well go see it. So we had a long conversation about the ins and outs, because as I discovered when you went there, it wasn't like a normal museum. A normal museum has just got an entrance that opens onto the street, and anybody can go in, buy a ticket, wander in. But this Biomedical Museum is part of a larger complex, and it's been there for decades. It's a very old institution, and they study infectious diseases, virus-borne diseases and things like that. So of course they have a lot of security. They don't want people just wandering around all their buildings and running into places where they're testing Ebola and stuff like that. So they have a little bit more security to get into the grounds and then to the museum than you have at normal museums. So I was telling Jason about this. Time to exit. Power of touch and go. There's another view of the Biomedical Museum. And what happened to me is that when I got to the front gate, the main gate, I had to sign in, and then they had to make a phone call. So they called ahead to the museum to get permission to let me in, and then to give them a heads up. And then they allowed me to go in. And then I walked to the museum, and then another woman stopped me outside the museum, checked with me. She told me to scan a QR code where I had to register online with all of my personal details. And then she went away and told me to wait outside the museum. And then after waiting for a few minutes, another person came out and brought me inside. And then they handed me off to another man who brought me on a tour of the museum. So they really kept track of where I was and what I was doing. And when you look at the reviews online on Google Maps, you see a lot of people talking about their trouble getting into this place because it's closed for, I think, 3 hours on Friday afternoon for Friday afternoon prayers, and then they get turned away at the gate. They have a dress code as well. You can't wear shorts, you have to have long pants. And so you know, Jason and I talked about all this, and then the long pants came up, and he says, oh, I better bring long pants. So he brought long pants in his knapsack, though he was wearing shorts. And when he got to the front gate, they looked at him, looked at his shorts, and just went, no, you can't come in. And Jason's trying to tell them, well, I've got long pants, I can change. And they weren't really listening to him, and they said, no, you can't come, no. And then he finally convinced them to let him into the bathroom at the front gate, and then he changed into long pants. And then he came out, and then they were all smiles. Oh, okay, welcome. And then they let him onto the grounds, but nobody told him where the museum was, because there's lots of buildings here. They all look the same. And I had pointed out the museum building to Jason, anticipating that problem. We came by on the monorail, and I nudged Jason and said, okay, that's the museum building, that one there. But I guess he wasn't paying attention, or it slipped his mind. So he goes into this complex, and now he's just wandering around. And he just went into one of the buildings that he saw that looked open, and now he's walking from floor to floor, going in and out of laboratories, empty rooms full of medical equipment. And as he said, yeah, that empty building was more interesting to him than the actual museum. But anyway, after all that security, all that tracking, they just sort of let him wander around freely, and he was going in and out of medical research buildings anyway. So that was all pretty funny. But he eventually got directed to the actual museum. They didn't tell him to scan the QR code though. And then he got a tour with this man, and yeah. So yeah, that was my Jason Biomedical Museum story. And one of the other errands I wanted to take care of today, maybe, was just getting a haircut. And there's this little barber shop, Barber in Town ENT, a little spot right here. And I thought, I told myself that if I walk by it and all the barber chairs are empty, like there's no one sitting, no one waiting, I'll just pop in. If there were like 5 people waiting, I wouldn't bother, but got to change the GoPro battery, I can see, and then I'll pop in there for a haircut. Let's pop in and see what's going on. Oh, that makes perfect sense. Because it's empty and because I want to get a haircut on Planet Doug, it's closed. That is how things work. It's a rule. It's like if Planet Doug had an immigration counter and or a welcome committee, they would say, welcome to Planet Doug, and we hope you enjoy your stay, but please be warned that everywhere you try to go, no matter what you're trying to do, the place that you specifically are trying to go to or visit will be closed when you get there, regardless of the day, the month, or the time. That's just the way things work on Planet Doug. Welcome. That would be the greeting. That's why it's sort of better in some cases not to plan ahead, because you just take care of things on the go and then you're never disappointed. Like if you go somewhere deliberately to do something, it will be closed when you get there. But if you just happen to be passing by and it's open, well, then pop in. It's best to be casual on Planet Doug. And as you go through immigration and customs on Planet Doug, they will also inform you that the one item that you're trying to purchase, that you're looking for, is the one item that no store anywhere will stock when you go to get it. It doesn't matter what it is. Whatever it is you're looking for, on Planet Doug, we have special agents. They have this ability to read your mind. They know what you need to buy, and they will run ahead of you. And wherever whatever store you go into, they go in there ahead of you and remove that item from the shelves. So if you're looking for the blue color of an object that you're looking for, they go in the store and they take away all the blue ones, so they're not there when you get there. Yeah, for the last few days, all I wanted to do was buy a bar of soap. Just a simple little bar of soap, one bar. I go into some stores, you can only buy them in bulk. They have like packages of four bars at once, and I don't want to carry around four bars. I only need one. And then quite often 7-Elevens will have single bars of soap, but every 7-Eleven I've gone into the last few days, they sell everything: toothbrushes, toothpaste, razor blades, and shampoo, everything you could want. But the one thing they don't carry is a bar of soap. And then the other day I was out wandering around, I came by a Watson's, big Watson's, you know, a big pharmacy. Aha! Finally I can get my bar of soap. I go in there, I buy razor blades because I needed new razor blades. They had those. They had everything you could possibly want to adorn your body from head to toe. But of all the lotions and shampoos and conditioners and moisturizers, they had no bars of regular soap. I guess they're just not, there's not enough profit margin when it comes to a bar of soap, like a simple bar of soap. Out of that whole store, I went up and down every single aisle thinking I must be losing my mind. Of course they must sell soap. But no, they didn't. And I remembered, oh yeah, I live on Planet Doug. That's what happens on Planet Doug. It's pretty funny. All right, back at the Crossroads Hotel. So, no haircut. Not yet, anyway. And if you're wondering why I need a bar of soap, this is why. That's what's left of my soap. I've been washing myself with this little sliver for days and days now, and it's getting tinier and tinier. And I keep looking for a new bar of soap, but I think tomorrow night I'll be staying at a new hotel. I don't know where. My mystery companions have organized all of that. And then in this new hotel, I think there will be hotel soap available, little hotel bars of soap. But so maybe I don't have to buy a bar for a few days. Anyway, I've got a reprieve. Today's small adventures continue. Just got back from the Canadian High Commission with my passport. Popped into my room at the Crossroads for a quick shower to cool down. And I got a message that my mystery companions for the road trip, well, one of them anyway, is at a nearby laundromat. And it's right here in my neighborhood. And I need to do laundry. So I quickly packed up my little bag of clothes I wouldn't mind washing. And I'm going to go meet up with my mystery companion at the laundromat. That's where all exciting things happen, right? And then we're going to make plans for tomorrow, which I think is the start of this epic tour. The mystery tour of Malaysia. The PDMTM, Planet Doug Mystery Tour of Malaysia. Yeah. My mystery companion found a really nice laundromat, I think, just around the corner. I think I can track it down. Chow Kit is such a great area. I feel bad at the time that I've been here. I've been so busy. I really haven't had a chance to sink my teeth into this new neighborhood. Of course, I've been here many times in the past, but never based here. So, like, there's so many hotels I didn't know were here. Like, there's one right there, Travel Inn. Like, it wouldn't even be on Agoda or anything like that. Passed two others on the way here, and there's another one, Hotel JRL. So many restaurants, so many shops. Yeah, it's a bustling district. And if I'm on the right trail, the laundromat should be just across the road there. Oh, there it is there. Mekong Lifestyle Laundry, 24 hours. Right there. So I'm in the laundromat and my clothing is being washed and dried, and my travel companions are here. So these are going to be my travel companions
Everybody.
for the next week or so. So we're going to be on the road for how many days? How many nights?
So around 8 days.
8 days, 7 nights.
7 nights.
Okay.
And then we come back to Kuala Lumpur.
Okay.
Japan.
Yeah, it's kind of a noisy environment in here, and I don't have a microphone on them, so I don't think you can hear their voices very well. But I just wanted to introduce them briefly, and yeah, gonna go touring around. And we're thinking about East Coast-ish kind of journey, so I'm really looking forward to that, and you'll see a lot more of these too, starting tomorrow when our trip starts.
Taman Nigara actually. More interested in Taman Nigara.
Oh yeah,
That's middle part.
right,
East and
the middle part
that's
there.
more beautiful area.
Yeah, all right, very exciting. So that was a brief, very brief introduction to my traveling companions over the next week or so, 7 or 8 days, Habib and Shanaz. And actually, it's funny, you'd think I would know this area better because I live here, and then we were just saying goodbye outside of the laundromat, and then they pointed down an alleyway and said, oh, just go that way, that alleyway, it's a shortcut, goes right back to your hotel. I'm like, huh, really? And yeah, so I just came through this little alleyway that they pointed out, and look where I am. Right behind the building where I went exploring the other day. So yeah, they know my neighborhood better than I do. And I'll be seeing them tomorrow morning. They're picking up a rental car in the morning and then coming to get me. And then we're leaving Kuala Lumpur straight away. As it turned out, Habib didn't plan a full trip yet. He was still thinking over the options based on the weather, like whether it was better to sort of stay on the west coast, sort of concentrating on like sort of like the Ipoh district, like heading in that area first. And I guess the alternative was to head more, like center the journey more along the east coast, along the east coast, along the shore there. And it kind of came down to the weather, and we were looking at the weather, and it's like, yeah, you know, the monsoons haven't really hit yet on the east coast, so the weather should be nice there. So we're sort of heading in that direction. Tomorrow we're heading into the mountains. Picked out a little town. Habib had his eye on a hotel there, and then we're going to stay there tomorrow night, maybe 2 nights, and then go from there to the east coast. Kuala Tenangaru or Tenangaru or Kuantan, sort of, you know, making it up as we go along, basically. But that's the idea for now. They just flew in late last night, or early this morning, basically. So this afternoon and tonight, they're going to be getting some rest, catching up on some rest, much needed rest. And then, as I said, we're going to meet up tomorrow morning to begin the journey. And thanks to their convenient shortcut, I'm already across the road from my hotel. There's the crossroads right over there. And I think that's going to be the end of my small adventures for today. I guess the big event was getting my passport. And I already told that whole story. And I guess the theme there for that story is, you know, all's well that ends well. It wasn't the easiest thing in the world, especially since I thought I had booked an appointment for 10:15, but either I didn't do it right or it wasn't registered. Anyway, something went wrong and I didn't have an appointment, but I got in anyway. And yeah, but I got my passport, and that's the most important thing. And I managed to meet up with Habib and his wife, and we're all set for the big mystery car tour starting tomorrow. So that's it. Shutting down for today. Check out Planet Doug over on the Patreon for some extra content, some little photos and updates there, as well as on the YouTube community posts section. Check there for updates about what's going on. All right, that's it. Shutting down, and I'll see you in the next video.